It's a Gundam!
Super Draco here, and welcome back to It's a Gunpla, the show who I did not think the name out very well. So we're continuing Hasegawa's 1-72 Xabungle, and today we're doing the body and torso. So to start out with, we're just going to do the parts of the shoulders hard mounted into the torso. So, I think this part of the build, and you'll notice off the bat we have undergated parts that really don't need to be undergated. Because again, none of this is really visible. That said, this is one of the times where I give respect, because this is articulation that I like, but I don't expect on most kits, because this gives Xabungle a pretty good butterfly. So, you know, this is one of the moments where I feel like if the build had been like this from the get-go, that I'd have a lot less frustration with the whole thing. Because the torso is actually very smartly designed and well engineered, in my opinion. I mean, it's not Master Grade Gundam level, but which at this price point and scale, it really should have been, since it didn't have to transform. In my opinion, if it doesn't transform, there's really no excuse for it to not be fully, not to be detailed and whatnot. Now, it's also just entirely possible that there aren't design schematics or interior details for Hasegawa to have created an inner frame at a reasonable cost. That's entirely possible. But with this whole thing being hollow, you know, I was hoping for more. Again, unrealistic expectation on my end, most likely. And this is one of the things where I just have to express appreciation, because that little tiny gray detail on the chest, that could have easily been a water transfer or a sticker or something, but they actually took the time to make it a piece. And it just shot out of there. So we're just going to jump ahead because I'm having trouble. So this is an instance where tweezers are your friend. I also used one of my sanding sticks to sand down the edges a little bit. And again, the yellow piece, they could have just used a water transfer or a sticker, but it's an actual piece. And again, I think the kit's better for it because it just looks better. Now, there is a little bit of molding in there, so you can line it if you want. I actually prefer it like this. Again, I want the anime look. Now, can you get the anime look and line it? Yes. But at the same time, that is a lot of time and energy that, well, frankly, I don't have. I am doing way too much these days. And I do appreciate the layering of the torso to help maintain shape and form, but also give it stability. So right here, this part is one of the different parts. So the standard Xabungle, its neck collar is this, I'm calling it a collar, but this collar piece is different for the heavy weapons version because it has to accommodate the connectors for the heavy weapons. You know, instead of, which I think's a poor choice on their part. I think it should have had the connectors, and you should have just had little covers to cover them up. So if and when you bought a heavy weapons version, you could distribute them. Because normally in the anime, they wouldn't equip all the heavy weapons onto just one Xabungle. Normally they would split them up. Like in one episode, Jiren was using the 3-barreled shoulder cannon and Rag was using just the rifle. So this is one of the canopies for Xabungle for when it's in its car mode. Now it actually comes with 2 colors of windshields, green or just clear. I prefer the look of the green, but that is entirely up to you. Now this piece did not want to fit properly, so I end up bringing out a sanding stick to try to get fit good. So after sanding and trimming and whatnot, eventually I'm getting it, it's finally holding together. Now, 2 things about this. Clear plastics are generally more brittle than non-clear plastics. So I don't like the amount of force they're expecting me to put on this. But the fact that this piece is essentially fitting with only 1 tab, and then this cap on top basically holding it the rest of the way, I'm not a fan of that either. I mean, saying all that, it does look good. And here we can see the clear option. Like I said, the green I think is more anime accurate. I could be wrong, but I think it is. We've got that back cover, and then the bottom. Now the instructions call out this bottom is supposed to be gray, and that's all well and good, but if it's supposed to be gray, why is it molded in blue? I mean, there are so many little things that they molded in color, and you mean tell me they couldn't mold this in the appropriate color? And also, here we are with more undergated parts. Again, I don't know why this is undergated, because they could have put the sprue on top, because it goes inside. Now I'm just doing some cleanup on this, because I don't like, even though I've cut them off, I still have burrs, and I don't want them to prevent the connection from being smooth. Now that was a high grit sanding stick because I didn't want to rough up the plastic too much. With a lower grit, you could easily have shaved that off in much fewer strokes. And another undergated part that one actually makes sense why it's undergated. And so we're building these intakes. They look quite good. Now, I believe this is anime accurate, but I actually think this is one of the few instances where they should have taken some liberty and made the insert into the intake gray. Clean up that undergate. Insert the vents on the intake, and there we go. So then the last piece, we have this piece that is some kind of, I guess, stabilizer fin for, because Xabungle's transformation required the car and the trailer to fly, to half transform so they could fly. Now, the wings are even multiple pieces. They didn't have to be. Now, interestingly, the wings had these little Honestly, I guess these are just lines from the injections process, or the molding process, when they inject the plastic to make sure it completely filled the mold. But that seemed like a lot of waste. Now, I'm building the Elchi version of Xabungle, so it has the unbroken wings. The kit does include broken wings for the Jiren version. And I do think it's kind of hilarious that Xabungle is one of the few mecha anime that realized that the transformation was, why don't the enemies shoot at them while they're transforming? Now, interestingly, these wings go on in a specific orientation because they have that little peg sticking off of it. Now, I had that wing backwards. I thought they went into those slots, and they don't. You have this piece that goes into the slots. Now, what I thought this piece would do is so that when you bend one wing, the other with it. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's due to the plastics, the design, or maybe I should have added some lube, but it really doesn't work. Because I test it there, I can't get it to work. So now I'm just going to go ahead and attach it and see if maybe having it fully attached to the torso will fix that issue. Unfortunately, it really doesn't. Like I said, I could have added some oil or grease and maybe lube that up a little bit and it worked better, but this is another instance of I don't think I should have had to. So now we've got the upper torso done, now we're real quick going to finish the lower torso. And I'm also going to knock one of the legs over into the frame. And good attention to details. Xabungle is powered by a gas engine. And you even have that molded top of the engine with... I'm trying to count how many pistons it has. So that is a 14-cylinder engine on there. So yeah, that's impressive. I don't think 14 cylinders is enough to power a giant robot, but what do I know? But then again, Megabots ran their robot on a Ferrari engine, so maybe it is possible. Anyhow, again, undergated parts that really don't need to be undergated. However, again, in the same layer or the same layering technique as the upper torso to help with the shaping. But that engine detail does look really nice. And I actually could see some customizers going to town on that. If this kit didn't cost so much and wasn't such a pain in the ass to build, I would have totally been down to do a hot rod version of this. Hot rod is in like the car, not the transformer. Okay, and with that, the torso is done. So then we're going to move on to the next section of the crotch. Now, starting off here with the crotch, it does something I'm not a fan of. You have to install these pieces and you have to kind of guess how far to install them so it'll connect together properly. But also, because they're hexagon shaped, you also have to try to make sure they're in the right configuration. And Personally, I think that a cylinder with pegs on the sides would have been better, but they chose this for shaping, I guess. I don't know. You slip this piece over it, and this piece has peg holes for the next piece. So you've got these two pieces that fit like so to create Xabungle's butt. So, as we can see, Xabungle has a flat derriere and is in need of some Brazilian lifting, if you know what I mean. And that's the last time I'm going to attempt that joke. So what we've got here is we're going to build the pegs that will attach the legs to the hips. So they're shaped so they fit in a specific orientation. And generally I prefer that, but I think whereas they're trying to do it their own way, they should have just copied Bandai. Because this shaping and whatnot, I just don't feel that it works. So now we're going to work on the inner or the center of the crotch where everything's mounted together. Now this is done in a way that I found very confusing. So what it is you needed one side of the inner pelvis. You wanted to put the hip post inside of it. Rinse and repeat on the other side. But instead of just combining them together, what you do is you feed one half through this piece, and then they kind of slides in like so. Then we're going to take the other piece and do the same thing from the opposite side and sandwich them together on that piece, and I don't fully understand why. Because you could have achieved the same structural stability by just having the piece slide around it. I'm going to try to not say like Bandai, even though that's exactly how they did it on several kits. So now we've got the front skirts. And then we're just going to put this red piece. This red piece has some nice shaping on it. Has some good grading, great G-R-A-T-E, great details on it, not G-R-E-A-T. Although it does have good detail, and I'm quite happy with that. And then we're sliding more of these polycaps onto the end, kind of in an inversion of what we did with his butt. So then we have the center piece that we're going to put this yellow piece onto, and you want the hooking piece to go on the bottom like so. So with that done, then you're going to take these, and you got to make sure the polycap's not too far down. Insert it, and then make sure it lines up properly. And then we're going to rinse and repeat on the other side. And then to further complicate it, there's a stopper on the centerpiece so the hip skirts can't go backwards too far. So you also have to go around that. That was a lot of work. And if I had to describe it, it's needlessly overcomplicating it. And I like complexity. I'm never going to complain about complexity because you can watch the entire Bismarck series to see how much I love the complexity, even if some of it was a bit repetitive. Alright, so now that we've got it lined up, I'm going to try again. Which, if I'm honest, why not put the poly cap in, lock the cap down, and then insert the peg? But that's because the ball on the end of those pegs is too wide to fall out of the hole. Then we just put the front on, put his booty on, and we're nearly there. Now we just got to do the side skirts, which are wheels. Again, I have applied the water transfers to the wheels, but I regret that now, because I'm going to have to take them off and paint it eventually once it just irritates me enough. The manual does give you a painting guide so you know what your paint mixes are, or you can just use straight colors, whatever you want to do. It's your model, decorate it however you wish. Now, unlike all the other wheels, there's actually a very strict order of operations to assembling the side of it. So, this piece is only meant to attach one way, just like that. So then, now, can you tell I took these and pre-assembled them so I could do the decal? Well, you're right, because when I popped it apart, that totally ripped the decal. But that is actually fixable. And not a big deal. But then the problem is you can see the edges of the decal go right into where that part connects, so you're just slicing off more of the edging. But then once all that's done, you just drop it on, and you can see where I ripped the front of it, where some of the paint's off, or the decal's off. So I've got to correct that eventually. So then we're going to just rinse and repeat, build the opposite side wheel. Again, this wheel has so much good detail on it. And I feel like if they had put half as much attention into the actual build of the kit as they did detailing these tires, that I think it would have been a much better kit. But I might also be overly critical just for the sake of being critical. But it's a perfect mirror. I'm gonna pop it apart. I didn't mean to pop it all the way apart, but now the assembly for those two pieces will be lost because the video in which I assembled that was a tutorial of doing the water transfers. But that footage will never see the light of day because these are some of the worst water slide, water transfer decals I've ever interacted with. And so you see how it just came off. When the piece popped apart, it ripping I expect, but not just to not adhere at all to the piece like this. So we're going to jump ahead. Okay, so the last thing we've got to do is attach the other wheel, and then we're done. Thanks for watching. Check out my fantasy story on Fiction Press. Chapter 6 is up. Chapter 7 will be out before the month is over. So I'm not going to detail all the stuff I did trying to save those water transfers.